Welcome to Keeping It Kissel. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. That was the little tagline. What do I do with this?
Well, it'd be good to have a
stand. Yeah, I've decided we need to get a stand.
Yeah, it's official. It's official.
Okay. Get reset up. That's so awkward. I'm embarrassed about it. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Doesn't have to be.
Really? We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
About
being embarrassed.
Being embarrassed. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so
where does that come from?
Everybody,
Really.
Oh, there you go.
Keeping It Kissel is back. Our podcast is back. You've got Cece, you've got me, and you've got our incredible special guest, Lynette Elinda, who has been our life coach and
Our
also
spiritual life
a
coach.
spiritual life coach and such an incredible friend. And now like an auntie to our kids, and they just adored their time with you.
I don't know if we got that completely approved, but we do feel.
Oh, yeah, I approve. I'm just
Okay.
not sure I fit in the auntie category. I think I have to be the next generation up, right? But
Like great aunt?
Mila said, what, can I call you? I said, anything you want, sweetie.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, they do call you Miss Lynette.
They do.
To
Yeah.
us,
Or
especially.
Miss Wynette.
Yes.
Lynette.
And Leo just,
Yeah, he just wants to hug and kiss everybody.
and feed you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he wants to feed you.
But Lynette, you've been our life coach, and you've helped our family through modes of crisis. You've helped our family through incredible things on the positive and the negative side of life, which is really special to have you here to discuss those things and some of the wonderful things that you've taught us. And so off camera for everybody, and when we're not recording, a lot of the laughter that we have, even though a lot of these things are serious topics, is I've always wondered how we can break it to our friends, our family, our fans, our listeners about something that you've coined.
And I want to touch before you come
Okay,
out with
so
it,
I'm not-
'cause
okay.
I do
Drum
love
roll,
it.
Okay.
please.
I do
know
love
where
it.
you're going.
Yes, and I want to go there, but I want to go why we're going there. We are asked endlessly, what do you do? How do you maintain a marriage with Brett as busy as he is? 3 kids at home.
Oh, I have to
bus.
interject. You're just as busy, honey.
Yes, and and you've seen
Yes,
it. So
you
yeah,
see.
the kids at home, and now we've started Keeping It Kissel, which is another extension
Just because
of
we
us.
weren't busy enough, we start a new family business.
Yes, and I can touch on why I did that. It was always my dream that we would reconnect in business. I got to work alongside Brett. Actually, our entire relationship and marriage. I first started with merchandise, and now we have a merchandise queen that took over that when I decided to become a mom. And then we started working side by side on tour, designing merchandise, working together. But as my role grew as a mom and knowing that that's where I wanted to spend my time, something that united us was the business. But now Brett has a whole team around him, and it's amazing. And we're so excited that we've built the Kissel team. But it was really hard for a moment for me to navigate where I fit into all of that, because I do have, I would consider myself an ideas person. I love creating and thinking ideas. And so I continue to think, well, how can we connect as a couple in this and come together in the business sense that actually was a driving force behind a lot of our relationship over the years. And so we started Keeping It Kissel.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I'm
here we
really
are.
glad we did.
And here we are.
And so
I'd actually like to touch on what you're doing with the Kissel Foundation too.
Yes.
That's part of why I'm here.
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah,
so,
let's talk
Well,
about
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, it's a great intention. We're going
Yeah.
to talk about intentions, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on that?
For the greater good of all.
Well, I have to give you the credit, Cecilia, because your charitable heart and spirit and soul has really inspired me. And the Kissel Family Foundation that we've got and that we've started, especially with our apparel line and a lot of the charity work that I do as an artist, I'm often asked, okay, we can give you X amount of dollars to do your show, or we can pay off your expenses, and then whatever your net is, we're going to give it to a charity of your choice. So I love those kinds of gigs and I love doing those things. So I wanted to give it to something that was meaningful to us and start it ourselves.
Right.
So in
we
doing
were talking
so,
about this morning, how often people want to give. We're actually a giving bunch. We really want to give. We don't know how to give. We don't know where to give, and we don't know where it's going. And so we stop before we start. And that's something that really I personally wanted to change for myself, and then extend it if someone else wants to join us. But to change it for us in the sense that okay, so let's create something where we see a need, we can fulfill it. It's not like there's maybe not enough dollars. You once you start dividing where all of your money's going, well, let's make that a focus too and make that a priority. And so we get to do the research and find out, a big passion of mine is children and women, obviously battered women or, so if there's a foundation or if there's a charity that
Forgotten children and
yes, that
underprivileged
you're really
youth
passionate about, please let us know, comment below, reach out to us. Let us know like what they're doing in your community and maybe we could help somehow.
That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up, Lynette.
So to further take that, every item that we sell through Keeping It Kissel, 20% of that will go to the Kissel Foundation. And I don't know if you want to pass me a sticker, actually, because we might as well show that. 100% of the...
Yeah, so my t-shirt, like we've got our Be Kind collection. So I've got the t-shirt.
Grab the sticker.
Obviously, everybody who's... Oh, sorry. Everybody who's
But I purchased these. We designed these and everything, every item, every sticker that's sold actually will be going straight to the Kissel Foundation.
I love it.
So yeah, just a little piece.
Why is charity and giving back so important to you, Lynette, and your mandate? Like it's always, you give back to so many things,
there's
but
there's only one of us here. And I think that it's really important that we start to acknowledge that, because selfishness or to be self-centered as opposed to centered in self, we talked about that before, is one of the great dis-eases that we're experiencing. And I think it's imperative for those of us that have reached that level in our life where we can give back, that we do start to give back. Because again, there's only one of us here and none of us finishes this race till we all finish this race.
Right.
Yeah.
And I myself, I am so deeply, deeply grateful for the gifts and the abundance that I experience in my own life. I can't wait to give it back. And then the beauty of it is too, right? What's the first law of the universe, Brett?
like attracts like.
That's right. So ironically, by being generous, you get even more.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So as long as your intention is truly to give, then you will always receive. And in so many different ways too.
Yeah.
You may not necessarily get any energy exchange of cash money, but the next thing that you need is going to drop right in your lap. And we talked about how we met. There's no coincidences, etc. So it's really like just all keeping the whole thing moving together. And I think that this is an imperative step going forward to create sustainability.
And I also feel it's our responsibility in the sense that if people are listening to us and at the level in life we have been, so blessed to get to play, and the role as I guess like what's the word, as a
Like for us to have the platform to stand up and
so
It's
like
a
the soapbox.
It's an honor
it's
and
a real
an honor
honor and a
and
privilege.
And and so it would be a shame to not stand up and to join with others, to have an opportunity to give back, encourage one another, and to just really give where we can.
Share with our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the spaces that I'm excited to give back on also is not in unsolicited advice, but in being an encouraging force, I guess, Cecilia and I as a couple, to talk about attracting and telling about our ups, our downs, our struggles, the real life that we're going through, which hence why, again, we're so excited that you can be our guest on this, is to talk about a lot of the things that you've helped us with and some of the, I don't want to call them catchphrases, but of course, as a marketing guy, tips and tools, as a songwriter, the acronyms that you've created that are so catchy, so funny, so real,
let's
honest.
dive into that.
Damn it, they work.
They really do.
Yes.
It's so funny.
You don't forget them.
I can't take credit actually for really developing them myself, because again, as I've said before, the universe is constantly supporting us, and they just drop in. And I really think that you're right. I get a lot of feedback about that, and I have people going, there I was facing this crisis, and then I heard Lynette in my head, and I'm going, oh, you poor thing. And they're going, no, it worked.
Well, because it helps me all the time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you've said, okay, it's been 10 minutes. We've been leading everybody up with this 10-minute drum roll.
And I'm sure it'll be the title of this
favorite
podcast.
Acronyms that you've got in your teaching and your coaching and everything that you do for us and others.
And is a perspective shift that's actually life-changing.
Subtle, but profound.
Very effective.
Yeah. most of these shifts are very subtle.
Yeah.
I'll say the first one, Cece, you say the second one.
Oh my. Or we should go the opposite. I think it's funnier coming out of your
Okay.
mouth.
Okay, what do you
Go
want to
ahead.
say?
Go ahead.
First one is that you say no Joe jobs. And no Joe jobs means no judgments, opinions, or expectations. And how crazy that is that as I've started to live my life with no judgments for others or situations, no opinions on others or situations,
And
no
yourself?
or myself, and no expectations.
Yeah. It's life-changing.
How freeing that is.
So should we just touch on that and go with it?
Nope, you
And
gotta say
then-
the next one.
I gotta
Because then
say the
I
next
don't want
one?
people to wait another 10 minutes for my favorite. No Joe jobs and Cece,
Only
Blow jobs.
no blow jobs.
Right. So we want to let go of judgments, opinions, and expectations.
Yeah.
And we want to start to work towards being loving, open, and willing.
Yes.
Right. And I find the men tend to really
Perk right up.
move towards that, right? Especially, you know, as I'm working with more and more men, which is just so beautiful to see. When I started doing this work many, many years ago, I would rarely see a man. And now I am so pleased to say I have attracted what I desired, which is men are just about 50% of the people that I work with. So
beautiful.
I like to say to the women, you know, because typically the women come in first. It's not uncommon. And I like to say to the women, I want you to tell your husband that you're getting really good at blowjobs. Right? So it is to be loving, open, and willing. And so when you guys began practicing that, it's a good diffuser too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
What have you guys found?
Oh my goodness. I can start with the judgment, opinions, and expectations. I think once I started to look at good majority of my behaviors and putting it up against that acronym, it really, it's a reminder. Like, okay,
a great filter.
am I judging? Do I have an opinion on this? And did I have an expectation? And I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe 100% of the time, a feeling that didn't feel good that's coming from the outside and coming at me was usually interpreted from that perspective, either from me judging someone or from me having an opinion on someone else's life. And the biggest one for me is expectations.
I think it's really important to recognize that we are essentially by our culture taught to form judgments, opinions, and expectations.
Yeah.
And we want to recognize, we want to take out judgments and replace them with discernment.
Yeah.
We want to take out opinions and recognize, like I like to say, my opinion in bus fare, I'll get you a ride downtown.
Yeah.
And expectations are impossible. You know, we try to tell ourselves that we have this ability or this right to expect from someone something, whatever it may be, you know, on a full spectrum. I'm not saying like you don't expect each other to be faithful. We're not talking about that level. And it's impossible to do that because each one of us has had a different experience.
Yeah. And it's unrealistic.
So
It's unattainable, and it essentially just puts us on a hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
So can you help me either find another word or shift my perspective right here and now? Because I still have a challenge with the word expectations, because I've got expectations of my team. I've got expectations of myself to hold myself accountable to a high standard.
Yeah, we're not talking about those kinds of
and
expectations.
wouldn't that be an agreement?
Yes,
Actually, you're
and those
both
are
in
reasonable.
agreement?
Like I said,
Right.
you guys are married to each other. It is reasonable
Yeah.
and appropriate to
Yeah.
have the expectation of fidelity. Let's take,
Yeah.
for example.
Yes.
It is not reasonable and appropriate, nor is it even possible for us to have an expectation about, say, how somebody else is going to respond or react to a situation, or to have an expectation about how they should feel.
I think it
about
becomes
it. This
Okay.
is what we're talking
I
about.
think it becomes
It's a good
an
reminder.
expectation that we're discussing is something that the other person knows nothing about.
Right.
If you're talking about an agreement with a team member or with me as your wife, well, we've agreed upon something. I don't know that goes under expectation when it's, anyways.
It's like a contract. It's like an agreement. It's mutually agreed upon. And the expectations that I'm talking about, as you both know, are the ones that we form unreasonably and unrealistically. And they typically follow a projection. It's like,
Yes.
I had this idea about you, so I have this expectation. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had people have expectations of me, and I didn't even know they were in the room.
Yes, totally.
You know, and it was like
Yeah.
we end up speaking two different languages.
And it tends to be based around a story that you've created up
in your own mind.
In your own mind.
And then projected.
An easy one would be like let's say for us, you're at home and you say you're at home and I'm like, oh, he's going to come home and he's going to buy me flowers and he's going to have the tub and all these things, when I've never expressed
Tub ready, flower
I've never
petals,
expressed that's even a
candlelight.
desire of mine. What an unrealistic expectation.
Yes.
But
and
you come
then-
home and you're disappointed.
Exactly.
Forget about
And then
it.
what happens? So judgments, opinions, expectation lead to separation. Separation leads to communication breakdown. We are not capable of accessing empathy, understanding, patience, tolerance, the keys from those perspectives. So this is why we want to practice blowjobs.
Yes.
Right.
So we want to be loving, open, and willing, and that allows us to create an opportunity for unity, which is ultimately the goal for the human race. We need to start to recognize there's only one of us here, but we're all coming from different perspective points. For each one of us, there is a different story. No two of us are alike.
Yep.
And it's important to start to recognize that, to make space by being loving and open and willing.
I think it's a huge one for relationships, and not just within your marriage. Friendships.
Every single
friendships,
relationship.
Relatives, for example, let's say use an example of somebody's coming into the city from out of town. Well, wouldn't it be strange if they don't come visit me and they don't this and they don't that, stop in and all these things? You get yourself worked up, where it's more like,
And why didn't they call, or why didn't they text?
You let it go. If that's what you want, communicate that.
Well, and then not hold the expectation that even once you've communicated your need or your desire or your request, not to expect that the other party is going to necessarily want or be even able to meet that need, and then not to form an opinion and a judgment. Right. So it's just this vicious circle.
That's right.
And actually, I'd like to touch on this too, because it rises up in me so often, and that has really helped me on my journey, is nothing is personal. That if we're the only ones here and somebody's living their own unique experience, that it's not personal. They're only looking out for number one, which is them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So how do you help me out with that saying? Nothing is personal.
That's huge for me.
I know that that's
shifted
huge, and I know that that's
world.
deep. So
Take for example a resentment. If somebody decides to take an event and form a judgment around it, give it a value, you've now got a resentment, which is automatically going to create separation, and nobody grows from that point.
Right.
So we can only form resentments and judgments when we take things personally, when we view them from our perspective. So I think it's really helpful to start to see that we're each a unique work of art.
Yeah.
I love the Impressionists, and I remember being at an art exhibit. I don't remember where now, somewhere, Europe, I think. And I was so privileged to see a Picasso and a Monet right next to each other. And I'm one of the ones that, I want to get right up there and see the brush strokes. And it was absolutely incredible to me how two profound artists had such a different style. And now we celebrate that individuality. People will pay, a gazillion dollars for one of these unique works of art. And nobody ever says Picasso should paint like Monet, and Monet should paint like Picasso. Again, there's that should thing. I don't recommend shoulding on yourself and shoulding on anyone else.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if we can start to see ourselves as individual works of art, as unique expressions, it also enables us to start to take responsibility for ourselves. And I see myself as an evolving work of art. And we were talking about gray hair.
Yes.
Brett pulled his first one out.
Lynette, don't disclose that to
It's
everybody.
officially
I
public.
had a
Hear it here.
white,
It was
Really
silver.
big. Brett Kissel is human.
This one hair above my left ear, and I saw it in the mirror getting ready today, and I thought, can't be.
Do you
Can't
know,
be.
for every one you pull, you get
is
5 more?
Bullshit.
Oh, no, that's true. Oh, that's so true.
That is the worst. Oh my God. So it's like, of course I'm self-conscious about that, but
of course, right? I'm not.
yeah, I don't know, but is
funny.
what it
You
is.
choose
There's
to
nothing
be.
I can do about it. Yeah, choose to be. But I
It is
want
what
to
it
say
is.
this,
Yeah,
that
doesn't matter.
yes, to each their own, but I want to circle back around not taking things personally.
Yeah.
So not having expectations or opinions. So I'm pretty good about this, especially in the world of social media.
I got to say, don't take your gray hair personally. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, good point. But if someone comments, say, on my Instagram page, I've got my kids and everything, and someone will say, you're a fake parent and everything that you're doing is...
Whoa, that's heavy.
No, hold it. So I'm
Wow,
going...
that's so not true. I've been
I'm
there for a week.
I'm going somewhere.
He does
here
laundry.
because it's an example of we've got a beautiful camera, it's a beautiful photo shoot and everything like that. That's like fake parenting. Show us the real stuff, whatever. How does someone not take that personally? I'll tell you, I don't, because doesn't really bother me what other people say. I know the dad that I am, so not a big deal. But how can you not take certain things personally? How do you coach somebody through that?
Well, first
to not
of
take
all,
personally what a
shifting your
family member says or a stranger says to you.
Shifting your perspective and moving to a place of living in integrity. Right? So
Knowing
I
your
have to say,
truth.
if anybody did make that comment, it's absolutely false. I have just stood back and watched you guys. And I said to you yesterday that I would love to get these pictures. And I was watching Brett running around, cleaning up the wrapping paper and wiping the counter and serving me and everybody else and doing laundry. And you guys really are truly that image that you present. You really, really are. And I've been there.
Thank you.
And I've seen you guys handle challenges, and I've seen the support that you have around you. And it is not a fake family. It is a family, though, that's come to recognize that you're in control of your destiny, and that if somebody else wants to project that onto you, that's not your monkey, that's not your zoo.
This is more about them.
Consider
Absolutely.
the source. And if somebody who doesn't even know you has decided to project that opinion on you,
Yeah.
well, then, you give it the value that you
Right.
choose to. And if you
Right.
want to internalize it, then you're going to suffer.
Yeah, and if I
Correct.
may,
Which I love that. That's a great
in a
lesson.
world of social media, this is a common theme where like somebody might say something that's completely offside and it can throw people. I've seen it firsthand with friends, girlfriends, that somebody will say something nasty and all of a sudden it'll throw their day into just like such a low.
We take it in, we
Yes.
give it a value.
Digest it, eat it, take a bite of it.
I really encourage practicing discernment, and you both know a little bit about my personal
Absolutely.
story and where I've come from, and some of my gifts are quite controversial for some people.
Yes.
And I have absolutely had to learn not to take it personally and to recognize, forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yeah.
They really don't know me.
Yeah.
They really don't understand. And it's really just a projection of their own ignorance.
Yes. And something you've seriously taught me in this process. And I approach any conversation that could be, heated or intense or whatever, is I instantly take a step back and I put on my, okay, you're officially talking about you now. Go ahead. You're saying things at me. You're saying things about me, but those things aren't true. So keep going. Like now I'm seeing what you feel, your insecurities, what you're thinking.
Exactly.
And that's a big one, is like,
it's not about us. It's really important. Like
It'll
I
say
said
more
before,
about them.
I've been attacked and,
Yeah.
and viciously attacked in many occasions for what I do, because I'm really taking things in a whole other direction.
Right.
And I've had to recognize, and I've been able to do it with compassion, and you guys are mastering this too, is that it doesn't actually say anything about me.
yeah.
Now I know a lot about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. I know you now.
I had a wonderful mentor in England. His name was Eric, rest his soul. And I would watch him walk into these scenes, and he would deliberately provoke people just to see, and I've been known to do it myself, took a page from his book, deliberately provoke people to see how they would react.
How they handle themselves.
Not how they'd respond, because a response is leaving an opening. It's being loving, open, and
Yeah.
willing. But how they would react. And then I'm quickly taking notes going, okay, under fire, this one will, da, 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 da. And okay, now I'm
The
fairly
irrational
warned.
begins.
Now I know what I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't say anything about me. So
Yeah.
again, we come back to being centered in self.
Yeah.
And when you live in integrity, I don't know about you guys, but I sleep like a baby every night
Absolutely.
because I'm happy with me.
Yeah.
And I do
And that's
not
all that
need
matters.
that external validation. It wasn't always like that.
Yes.
But I don't need that external validation. So thank you for your unsolicited opinion. And I should share a little story. We have a mutual acquaintance friend that we
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
And this person said to me, would you please give me your opinion? And I said, he said, oh, no, he just said, I'd like your opinion about something. And I said, well, I'll let you know if I want to give it to you. And he said, well, you have to. I've asked for it. And I'm like, no, I don't. Because be careful, because people will then use it as a weapon.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so,
I've experienced that lately.
Yeah, and-
where someone will send me a message and say, so-and-so, da-da-da-da, what do you think? None my business, none my business,
not
none
my monkey,
business.
not my zoo.
Yeah.
That's right. And don't you find, I like to talk about energy leaks, and energy leaks are created through false belief systems.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out that one of them is when we give our power away in so many of those little ways. When we start to just clean up those little things, I'm reminded of many, many years ago, I had a waterbed. And it was leaking, and we couldn't figure out why it was
Where the
leaking.
leak was.
And then I remembered, we have a kitten. and it wasn't a big hole that was obvious that did the bed.
One
in.
little itty bitty kitten
tick, tick, tick,
toenail.
all over the place. And so I think it's really important.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, where is this gaping hole? I'm soaking wet. And this is what it's very helpful to recognize, that it's these little things that actually drain us and then leave us, you know, without any energy to deal with those challenges that come our way. And it's because of these false belief systems that say it's okay to judge, that your opinion actually means something.
Right.
And my opinion only means something to me. And essentially speaking, my opinion of you is nobody's business but mine.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So no energy leaks there. We're not giving our power away there.
Yeah.
And then we can start to distribute this energy in another way that is going to create unity and not separation.
But Lynette, it's still hard. Like
Simple as
Nobody
mud.
said it'd be easy.
hard as fuck.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it is based on, now I can go internal and I can say, based on how I was raised, based on a lot of factors in my upbringing, there was a lot of comparing, there was a lot of judgment between families and situations and what have you, and the way other people raised their kids and everything. And a lot of it was private. So not that I want to throw my family under the bus, but I do realize now that wasn't a great thing to do. But it's still hard when you see someone that you think is doing something inappropriate or maybe incorrect or wrong. So how do you go through that?
Be careful about thinking, believing, and the difference between thinking and believing and knowing. And I think it's really important to recognize that the vast majority of us have been raised to believe that these kinds of dysfunctional systems were okay. And we're seeing, look out the window. The evidence is that this is not creating unity, it's creating separation, and that normal at this current space and time is not necessarily healthy. And it's what we've been taught. So humanity's reached a point where we're ready to evolve to the next level, and we are starting to challenge that fundamental programming that is so prevalent that we think it's normal. We think it's healthy, right? My son had a T-shirt once that said, "Normal people scare me," right? And I don't consider myself to be the current normal, and thank you very much. So challenging those belief systems is really important.
Yeah.
And to see that, if it doesn't feel good, right?
Yeah.
To challenge it and be hard on your belief systems.
Okay. Yeah. And can you touch on, I know you've shared this example with us, but about the mother, the daughter, and the grandmother with the roast.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I've used it. I've borrowed it many times.
Oh, it's a really good one.
Yeah.
Again, I have to thank the guides and the teachers that I've had for that one too. There was a story about a mother and a daughter and a grandmother, and they're preparing dinner and they're making a ham. And so the grandma's sitting at the table and the mother and the daughter are working on the ham, and the mother says, okay, chop off an end of each of the ham, one end off of each of the ham and put it in the pot. And the daughter says to the mother, and this is the younger generation typically that's starting to question, and the daughter says to the mother, she says, why do we cut off the ends of the ham? And the mother says, well, I have no idea. I don't know. Let's ask Grandma. So we say, Grandma, why do we cut off the ends of the ham? And Grandma says, well, because my pot was too small. Right? And we do this, and we don't challenge these beliefs.
Continue the same cycles.
Right. Exactly. And we continue without challenging this stuff, not recognizing it doesn't serve us. It may no longer be necessary.
Yes.
It may not be appropriate for this particular choice or experience.
Yeah. Just because it worked for them, their circumstances were completely.
I'm not sure that it worked for them either. I mean, the ham worked for Grandma, but the judgment, that's never going to work for us, right?
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, I have to say that since we started talking about, since we started our work with you and since we started our work with each other, not judging each other for the decisions that we make, not having opinions or expectations has freed us up in unexplainable ways and unbelievable ways. And it's very interesting, like for anybody watching on YouTube right now, it's like the sun just came out as we literally started
Touch on
saying
this,
I hope
that.
it melts some of that snow. I'm not used to it.
Oh, I know. Poor Lynette has come out here from Vancouver Island. Out to
have
snowy
snow
Alberta.
here.
I know, to the heart of the prairies, which I love. I love the charming. I know that you love the charmingness of the prairies too, but I love this stuff and I love being here. Anyways, and then be loving, open, and willing. That helps with every single challenge that we face or every situation, every conversation, every human being that we encounter. Be loving, open, and willing.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
It's effective.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
You can't walk through a closed door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Lynette, we are so thankful that we have you in our lives and that you've been able to now help just in so many different ways for me in career and especially our relationship. Because once we got this going, isn't it funny how we got this going and everything else is opened
I think
up.
another time I'll probably touch on how we went from focusing on all of the drama and everything spinning around that this opportunity and this new journey in our lives, all of a sudden it was like, okay, there's no problems. Now what? Like there's all this time for activity. Like,
right.
What do we do now?
And to go from a state of
chaos and crisis,
chaos, crisis, like we're just trying to survive, whereas now we can thrive.
Yes.
Yeah. And build on that.
And that's our birthright. That's our birthright.
And that's thanks to no Joe jobs.
And
lots of blowjobs.
Okay, that's the best way to end the old Keeping It Kissel.
Going to think about this episode, guys?
I think I already got to Grandpa Bear. I think
the Keeping It Kissel podcast is such a great space for us. We're very thankful that you tuned in. Please follow us on Instagram as well as our website, keepingitkissel.com. Follow Cecilia at Cecilia Kissel, at Brett Kissel. Lynette, thank you very much for being a big part of what Keeping It Kissel is.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Things. It ain't no secret. The secret to this smile, it ain't complicated. In fact, it's easy to describe the perfect start to the perfect day. I could say it in a couple words. This morning, having coffee with her.